Okay, so now we're recording. Okay, welcome to everyone, and happy full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces. It's a really intense energy, and I thank all of you for making the effort to be here and join us. And there's so much happening. I don't know about your own lives, and the shifts and things that you've got going on with people in your own world and your sphere, but there's just so much going on right now, and it's all good. And of course, like I've talked about in some of these calls leading up to this one, this eclipse, of course, being a lunar eclipse, and full moons are all about releasing as a general rule. And of course, with all endings, we also have new beginnings. It's both. It's never just one or the other. I mean, it's in truth, every nanosecond, everything is ending and re-beginning again. And it's that moment in precipitation that I've discussed before. But before you're going into a creation of something, if you sit in that nice quiet space before you actually act out a creation, then you're going to be much more, I think, grounded in creating something that's sustainable for yourself, and also doesn't have a lot of karmic kickback and retribution or some other cause effect reality coming into you. And so really, it's just creating from immediacy. And, when we're doing that, I think it just makes things easier for us to not have, as much drama. So, yes. So, I didn't get the written parts out until earlier, today. So you may not have had a chance to read much of the stuff. But if you did get to the videos, that's given you a good base to understand how these eclipses are going to work in bigger picture dynamics, what's happening right now with the energies. And, of course, Rick Levine always writes, he doesn't really do a separate video just on the eclipses, but he does for the whole September. And because he does that, it's a very detailed dynamic of the way the energies interplay with the eclipses, which is really good. So, and Kathy Beale's always, pretty spot on and gives a good kind of big picture understanding and what's happening with the energies with the eclipses too. So, okay, so going into talk about this a little bit. Just a little reminder, precursor on this stuff. What was it? The last moon we had was at 0 Virgo, and that really opened up this eclipse portal. You always have a moon 2 weeks before the first eclipse, and then the moon that we're going to have after the eclipse coming up on the 21st. I forget what day it is, but that moon is going to close out the eclipse window. So really, we're dealing with 6 weeks of active energy, the way that these things work. But the fact that this one opened up at 0 Virgo on the Regulus star really kind of is it's like a zero reset energy. And in Virgo, it's very detail oriented. It's very health oriented. Virgo really has to do with health, and I think it's one reason we've got so much discussion regarding health in our world, especially in this country, because our so much of our reality, and it's not just our country, it's all around the world, our reality has been turned upside down as far as what's real and what's not real. And it's one reason Americans are some of the most unhealthy people as a whole. Obviously, that's not a general statement for everyone, but we really have, missed the mark on keeping Americans healthy, and not just in physicality. It also has to do with the emotional body, the mental body, the spiritual body. I mean, we're really out of whack as a whole, as a species, the human species, and especially those that are deeply plugged into technologies, the ones that have been taken over by the pharmaceutical world. And I mean, I know we all know so many people that are taking so many pharmaceutical drugs. It's really sad, and yet, I mean, we all are where we came to be. Sometimes I'll be discussing this with people, and we'll talk about, did people really plan to come here and become so deeply immersed in pharmacology, to fall so far into distortion as far as the physicality and the way the body functions, and it's basically just legalized drugs. It's really no different from the drug pushing that comes in from all of the other, dark drugs. The pharmacology world is as dark as anything coming in here from Venezuela or any of the other countries. The fentanyl and the crack. I mean, it basically all of it was introduced to take people into a very dark disintegration in the physicality, but it also destroys the mental mind and the emotional mind, or the emotional heart, and it destroys your connection to the cosmic heart of God, which literally is it's the cosmic mind and the cosmic heart merged, and it takes you away from your core awareness. I mean, through eons of time, that's always been done through alcohol, but and it's why it's called spirits. It's like you drink alcohol and you see these weird spirits and you get into weird spaces, and it alters your reality and the way you perceive reality. And of course, I know it. I was in that world for years, running a nightclub on Bourbon Street, for Pete's sake. I mean, I watched so many people go into deep disintegration and didn't think about it from that standpoint. Now I'm working to try to, assist people in, moving toward a more healthy reality and giving up the false spirit world and the stuff created from it. But okay, so we have that moon at 0 Virgo, and so it's opened up really a 6-week time period. But between then and the second eclipse, which will be coming up on the 21st, that will be the new moon solar eclipse, and it's 29 degrees Virgo. I'm going over a little bit of this for anybody that's new on the call tonight, because I think there's a couple of them, at least one, but I think 2 or 3. So the sun is basically going to go between 0 and 29 Virgo from the beginning of that moon to the second eclipse. That really is a whole completion time. And so at this eclipse, it's at 15 degrees Virgo, which is in the center of that, and it's also in opposition to the moon that's in Pisces, and that's the focus of this eclipse. But because the sun is here, the sun is lighting up whatever it is in the Virgo house, individually and collectively. Now, when I look at this wonderful big new chart I've got, and you can't make this stuff up. When I look at the transits and the energy traveling with it, guess whose last name of an asteroid is sitting right on the sun? That would be the Bray asteroid, my last name. So I'm sitting in the opposition with the sun at this full moon lunar eclipse. It's like, I mean, there's no mistakes to this. The Ison Centaur comet is there, as well as the Jung asteroid, Carl Jung. So, and the Carl asteroid is on the other side of me. So Carl Jung as a frequency energy, and anything that he had put out, I think with regards to consciousness, psychology, all these other modalities, archetypal understandings, all that kind of stuff. All of that is attending the sun of this particular eclipse. It is also being attended by the South Node, only 3 degrees away. The South Node is our individual and collective past. So you've got each of us as an individual and 8 billion others that have a collective soul past. Now, that's assuming there's 8 billion people on the planet, which I don't necessarily think that's true. I don't think there's that many of us. It doesn't matter. The collective is whatever group it is. And then you've got all the collective lifetimes that we've lived. You know, we're currently in a soul expression, and depending on, you know, how deep you go down into this rabbit hole and cosmology, there are many people that discuss, well, not many, but quite a few, that discuss we are 12 incarnations operating with the 13th oversoul at any one time. So you've got all these realities in multidimensionality of who we are operating from the South Node. That's our past. And I guess the reason that all this is really potent for me is because it's sitting on my natal and progressed Pluto, my progressed Pallas Athena, which is justice, which is, you know, all these kinds of things. And the natal, actually it's sitting on my natal direct, but it's also on the asteroids of my Gaia Earth asteroid, my Essence asteroid, and my Porta Coeli, which is the heavenly portal asteroid. And, you know, a lot of people think asteroids don't matter. Well, they kind of do. On in the sign later is my Uranus, which is the shocking, you know, reality of stuff. But the point is, all this energy is working here together, and it is in opposition to the moon. Now, coming up just in a couple of days, Mercury is going to go pass through that. So Mercury is working with this opposition to the Pisces moon. And you may ask, well, why have you started talking about this rather than the actual moon in Pisces? Both of them work together, and when the sun is in opposition to the moon, it is equally important because it's actually it's eclipsing the moon. And so it's actually creating the energy. And I feel like, you know, and the sun is really, you know, putting out the vibrational frequency. It's lighting, it's the life force, kind of. And the moon is the emotional expression, which we will get to in a bit. But they really work as a dynamic, as a polar dynamic. And so I think if we start with that as the energy that's focusing us, you know, to lead. So whatever you've got going on in your own Virgo houses, I think that's going to make a point of reference for yourself to ask, what's being affected for me with this moon? So oppositions don't necessarily mean it's a bad kind of thing. A lot of people think, oh, it's opposing. All it's doing is creating a very kinetic response. Okay? So the fact that Mercury is also attending in all of this means that there's a lot of communication happening with it. Of course, Mercury is direct, thank goodness. Of course, if it was in a retrograde, then we'd just be going into a deeper, introspection. But the fact that it's moving forward means we're able to, I think, work with whatever's coming up with this from our South Node, from our past world, past lives, past realities, collectively as well. and that's going to work, with that. So now let's go ahead and switch on into Pisces to talk about the actual moon. Okay, so that means the actual moon is 15 Pisces. That's the eclipse, 1523 Pisces. It happened at 1:08 this afternoon, so we've already been sitting in this, and because the sun is with the south node, this moon is with the north node. The north node is where we're going. It's our future, individual and collective futures. The north node also has the Nessus Centaur within 2 degrees of it. So there's all of these themes of abuse, power, how you take power over, all the sexual stuff. All of that is with the north node. So I feel like we're going to be working with these things. And of course, being in Pisces is oceanic presence. Pisces is it's our spiritual expression. I mean, it's the last sign of the zodiac, so it's any of the last places where we want to clean up our world before we go into Aries. Now, the other part to this that's being activated, Saturn just went back into Pisces on the 1st, 6 days ago. So it's sitting at that 29th anaretic degree. That really is sitting in the very end of a reality creation before going into the new creations of Aries at the World Point. Saturn has been in Aries now for the last 3 months with Neptune. Neptune's going to come back. It's also going to join in this anaretic degree, but it's not there yet. So Neptune, even though retrograde, it's still in Aries, trying to feel into what new beginnings you're still working with. So that's the dream, it's the delusion, it's the illusion, it's all these things, but it's still in Aries. It is not it's not at the it's not in Pisces, so it's not really acting as part of the past regarding Neptune at this particular point with these eclipses. It's still working with the future potentials of creation, because it is at the beginning, it's at 1 degrees of Aries. It hadn't moved back to 0 yet, but it will move back to 0 on the second eclipse in 2 weeks. So Neptune being at that degree is just going to be on the other side of the window between Pisces and Aries, which is it's the ending and beginning, the alpha mega point of the zodiac. So, and that, of course, is going to be the opposition point to the new moon solar eclipse, which will actually be at 29 Virgo. So Neptune will be at an out-of-sign opposition. But because Neptune is in Aries in the new dream, I think it's going to be in the better end of it. I could be wrong. I'm not a professional astrologer on that. They may say that it works in opposite because it's out of sign. I do feel the energy is as potent, obviously. So, and the other reason for that is because literally within an hour, the new moon solar eclipse in Virgo will hit 29 degrees of Virgo, and then opposition is Pisces. But literally like an hour later, it's going to meet up with Neptune. So whatever the energy is creating, it's straddling both worlds in opposition, the opposition point to that. And we'll talk more about that in 2 weeks. But right now, back to this particular eclipse, there's not a lot of transiting energy traveling with it. There's not a lot of conjunction energies. I mean, the North Node's right there, and Nessus. I mean, those are the two biggest things that are affecting the moon in Pisces. But going back through the signs, matter of fact, I'll go back to Aries just to see, what's happening from there. I mean, Aries is it's I am presence. Who are you in the world as an individual expression? There's a lot going on in Aries. Everything there is semi-sextiling that, this moon today. Ceres is retrograde, like right at that degree. I mean, it's technically at 14 degrees, 14 and a half, but so it's semi-sextiling this eclipse. Ceres is about nurturing. It's about it's more like self-care kind of thing. And Selassie is about 3 degrees away from it. The Einstein asteroid is 3 degrees the other way. There's not really anything else right there in Aries around it. Of course, we've got Chiron still working in Aries in the later degrees with Eris, and those two things are traveling together. The other thing that's also happening at the end of Aries, sitting on Chiron and Eris, is the Priapus, which is the perigee of the moon. And Priapus just went direct on the 31st. So within this eclipse window, this is actually in the pre-window part, a week ago, Priapus really represents the divine masculine, in my humble opinion. Haven't got to Lilith, but Lilith is more about the divine feminine expression in its highest expression. But the fact that Priapus had been retrograde, but it's not going to go forward as it enters the eclipse window, it's at the later degrees of Aries, and it's also around the Andromeda galaxy. Andromeda really, I think, represents some of the higher expression. Of course, my sun is right at Andromeda, and I've actually had some people, like the first woman that Jude ever had me, she referred me to a psychic friend of hers, and she said, "You're from Andromeda, aren't you?" And I said, "I don't know, am I?" And say, this is 20 years ago. But sure enough, when I pull it up in the stars, it's right there at my sun sign. So, but because we've got Priapus, the divine masculine, at the later part of Aries, it's kind of working with us to integrate the divine expression, whether you're male or female, in physical anatomy. There's always a way that the divine masculine can work with us, and it's working with that part of our I am presence as it goes direct. As it meets the eclipse in 2 weeks, it's going to be quincunxing, which is kind of a difficult degree, that it will be meeting it at like 29 degrees. And so that's kind of critical, but it doesn't have to be a bad experience. It can still be a good thing. Moving on into Taurus, that brings a sextile to this full moon lunar eclipse. There's nothing really there. Eros is coming across it. That's more of male sexual expression, as far as the way it's, I guess, looked at in some ways. We all have Eros. If you're male or female, it doesn't matter. It ends up being creative energy. I mean, everything is creative energy. It just doesn't go down to, physical sexuality. But there's not really much there, I think, for most people. It is sitting on my natal Mars, so I'm getting a sextile of this energy with this. It's also on the Taurus World Point, which is the midpoint between the cardinal signs. But it's a grounding energy because it's in Taurus, and so overall, I think that one's a positive thing. But there's not really anything else that's around that energy. In Gemini, the square to this particular moon lunar eclipse, Psyche, the asteroid Psyche, is within 2 degrees. So Psyche kind of looks like a higher function of Venus. So it represents, feminine qualities. It represents kind of like how you love, what you love. It's also one of the love asteroids they use for charts to check things. But there's not really anything else around that square. So that's good, because squaring is, more challenging energies. The trine to this full moon, well, one of the trines is 2, but in Cancer, it's at 15 Cancer, that just happens to be sitting on my natal Judith asteroid. She's at 1451. So this is an exact trine to the Judith energy. And I've always talked about how souls are eternal, whether someone's still here in physicality or not. The soul is eternal. And so even though people may leave us here in the physical, they're still talking to us, and we're still in communication and union and communion with those souls. This trine is also 2 degrees away from the Sirius star. The Sirius star really has been always about a deep communication with humans and I think the outer world, our cosmic world. A lot of people have a different takes on that. Right next to that is the Magdalena asteroid progression in my chart, which is next to Judith. So one could say that you've got a Mary Magdalene energy working with Judith energy. There's all sorts of ways we project value, but from a transitory standpoint, Jupiter is within 4 degrees of the trine. So that's close enough that Jupiter is really expanding the trine energy of this moon, and it's in Cancer. Cancer is nurturing. It's your home. So you may, if it's activating something within your own chart and expression, and even if you don't, it's still affecting us all in certain ways. But those that have things directly there will be highly affected. Jupiter really is the expansion of this, and it's going to just blow up and make that flow of energy, I think, feel even more potent. So that's a good energy that we're having with this. So that's how it's affecting in Cancer. As far as the Leo house, it is 15. Of course, that's another world point in Leo. Leo is that place where we see ourselves as a big lion, where we're roaring in the world, where we've got our expression out there, where it's kind of larger than life. That's quincunxing the moon because it's only 30 degrees away. At the same time, Venus is directly on this full moon quincunx, this eclipse today. So if Venus is attending it in that particular way, you might have some issues with regards to love, relationships, things you value, like materiality. It could bring some challenges with that, potentially. It happens to be sitting on my natal astro wizard and my first name in progression, as well as the natal Tesla asteroid. So it's like there's a lot. And again, this is this is quincunxing energy, so it can be challenging energy, but it's like with any other challenge, you bring it up, you address it, and go through it. My first name asteroid is sitting on it as well. So it's like it comes right up next to it. So it's like, from an asteroid standpoint, my names are directly hitting 2 points of this eclipse. One is a quincunx and one is on the sun. So I guess it's kind of no coincidence that I'm doing a presentation on this. That's that part of the zodiac. Going into, actually I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to go back up to Pisces and go backwards because I want to save the most important discussions for the last with Virgo and Scorpio. At Aquarius, there's a semi-sextile, and again, it's kind of workable energy. It's 30 degrees away, but it's not. Sextiles are good flowing energies. You think semi-sextiles are, but they don't see each other really, is what a lot of astrologers say. But Chariklo is only 3 degrees away from it. And Chariklo was, the wife of Chiron, which, the wounded healer. And of course, she helped him heal. They worked together in progression with that. And that's also on the Aquarius World Point. So I think anything that's, because, because these angles are falling on the midpoints of the cardinal signs, it's a very workable eclipse for us individually and collectively as far as any deep-seated things we're dealing with. And of course, they're not necessarily the more flowing aspects like trines or sextiles. They're semi-sextiles and quincunxes. So the energy is more challenging, which also can help assist in leading to the endings of things that you might want out of your life, but you didn't really know you wanted out of your life. The other thing that's with this particular eclipse, though, Pluto is in a square, a half square to it, which is also a challenging energy. It doesn't have to be an awful energy, but it can offer. Pluto is offering shifts to anything that's happening with regards to the moon and you, as far as transformational, energy. It's, very transitional. I mean, Pluto really moves to transmute, especially in core levels. I think it's one reason why I mentioned before we started recording the call that I've been perceiving such deep disintegration. A half square would be, I think, part of that disintegration. Pluto, how we're, how it's transforming, us, but it's in Aquarius, and so when we look at ourselves, in the age of Aquarius, it's shifting us on a collective level, and it's at those beginning degrees. It's only at 1 degree because it's retrograde as it goes into all of this. So we're really kind of doing backwards work as far as transmuting our perception of reality, because again, Pisces has a lot to do with perception. Pisces is also oceanic presence. The other thing that's happening with this, though, is that between that and the Uranus, Uranus just went back retrograde, and it backed into, I forgot about that, at Gemini Taurus. Let's see, where are we at? Oh, I'm sorry. It's stationed retrograde. That's what it was. Uranus stationed retrograde at 1 degree in Gemini just yesterday. And the fact that it's done that, the retrograde stations always make a huge shift with things. And so that happening, and also this Pluto placement, I think really assists with going into the disintegration. The fact that Saturn just went back into Pisces, Saturn is structures. So you put all those energies together, and Jupiter, but of course Jupiter trining is a good energy. So I think that really keeps some of this stuff positive. But the fact that you've got, all those things happening together is really breaking apart our structural perception of reality. And so there's a lot of transformation with that. Going back into Capricorn, that is a sextile to this moon. It happens to be on my natal moon at 15 degrees exactly, which is interesting. There's not really a lot of other planets traveling around that sextile, though, in Capricorn. And because the sextile is in Capricorn, Capricorn is structures. It's, Earth, signs, and all that. Sagittarius, that's a square. So that brings up challenging energies. That's adjustments. That square is sitting on the Great Attractor. The Great Attractor is at 1417. I've talked about these galactic points. The galactic center is at 27, Sagittarius. The Great Attractor, the galactic center, which is the center of our galaxy. But the Great Attractor is one of those anomalies that it's hard to explain it. I think if I didn't send out something by Philip Sedgwick talking about these galactic points, I need to remember to do it. I think I did, though. But that square is sitting right next to the Great Attractor. The Pamela asteroid is sitting right next to that, and Pamela's sitting in the Great Attractor. Estrella is right next to her. So that's kind of like, I mean, not like a Pamela energy is going to be affecting anything, but I do think that it puts her in tune, or that'd be anybody named Pamela from that standpoint. But I do think Pam Gregory's feeling into this on an intuitive level because of her soul progression, because she's sitting at the Great Attractor with this square. So I think it's workable energy for her to perceive deep capacities around all this. It's one reason why I think her videos really articulate a lot of what's happening. Okay, now I've saved the best for the last regarding this moon. So I'm going to introduce and discuss something else. I was trying to remember if this had come up to me before the last moon cycle, and I don't think it did. There is an outer interstellar object that has come into our solar system. This is only the third one that's ever happened. I think it happened. A couple of them happened like maybe 2017 or 18. I don't remember what they were, but comets, kind of like comet energy. And this one came in. Well, depending on who you read, most of the official things are putting that it started officially on July the 7th. And it's called 3-Eye Atlas. And there was another photo that was created of the constellations across the sky and the ecliptic. And the ecliptic is where it's our view when we look out at the sun and the horizon, and we see all the constellations go around us. It's a very limiting view, and it limits us to these 13 if you count Ophiuchus constellations. But what's interesting, this object comes in, and it literally travels along the ecliptic, and it's going along in a retrograde motion backwards. It entered right around the galactic center, and that's the beginning of the Milky Way. That's what we revolve around, really. I mean, we've got the sun, but so the one individual that created that path actually went back to some of the NASA data that says that this thing entered the solar system on May the 6th. It actually had it traveling forward until about the 16th, and then it was going backwards through our zodiac. And so if you go from the galactic center, I mean, why would it come in right there? There's no mistake about that. Now, what's interesting about that, it came in right around the Pamela asteroid. I think it's another reason that she has been intrigued with it. I mean, not just her, but other people. And so it started a backwards track. So what I ended up doing was placed points. I had to guess by looking at this map. I had to look at the stars, the fixed stars that are in the sky, and I put a point in my map based on where I thought it was going to be. And so I made a path. And what's really interesting about this, and different astrologers have talked about it, anytime you have an interstellar something that comes in to our solar system, it's going to affect us in a way that's going to wake us up. It's a consciousness, something that's beyond our regular consciousness. It's not our sun. It's not stars that are confined to our solar system. It's an interstellar object. So it doesn't come from here. And when I was reading about what they say makes it up, they say it's heavily carbon dioxide. It also had what was it? They said it had a lot of nickel as far as a metal composition. I'm not sure how they do all this testing, but that's what they do. But it had no iron. And they always say whenever you've got nickel, you've got iron. So the chemical composition of this thing is literally outside of our solar system. It makes no sense from a chemistry standpoint. So as they continue to go through and do, however they do their scientific work on this, it's going to be interesting to see what comes up with it. The main thing is the fact that it's interstellar. So let's say with the astrology standpoint, I've placed it on the path with all of the other items that's here. It's going to aspect just the way other astrology things do. And I want to give up a lead of this before I get into the Scorpio, because this is very pertinent to it. Okay, so this thing has started at the galactic center, and it comes down at a slow arc until, let me see, when did it get to a point? Okay, I found a point where it was by the Antares star in the sky, which Antares is one of the royal stars. There's 4 of them. And what's interesting, another individual astrologer that had written about this, she had posted that she went by one of the other things that said that this thing began on July the 7th and the galactic center. So she made an ephemeris, which is basically, it shows a path, supposedly with curvature for angles. She had it beginning at 29 degrees of Sagittarius, which is just past the galactic center. And she had it. So I posted her path along with my path. And what was interesting was, because mine came in so much earlier, 2 months earlier, it has it really coming through and going through all of Sagittarius on a much slower path and a more straight line path, but it's working and coming in contact with all of the stars of the Ophiuchus constellation. Ophiuchus is that 13th constellation that supposedly got emitted. And I've talked about that with other videos. Well, not videos, we're in audio. And so Ophiuchus, is kind of like the head of the snake. It's the head of consciousness. I mean, everybody has a different value they've projected on Ophiuchus. But if it was the emitted of a 13-sign zodiac system, it's interesting that this object came in right there with the galactic center. And both of our paths follow down together, but the way it's done it, it also then has this item coming into the Great Attractor, just as the Pamela asteroid had gone just past the Great Attractor. It's the other reason I think that she's kind of tied to this. This thing crosses the Pamela asteroid on the Antares royal star. And again, I guessed on where it was. This other girl's path is coming really close to it on the 4th. And her path and my path start converging at the beginning of, middle of August. And they meet up, and her path is right on top of my path, which was guessed. And I know part of you like wondering, okay, what is all this? You're taking a little bit of time to get here. Trust me, there's a reason for this. So our paths are now sitting on top of each other. Hers is done scientifically, through astrological ephemeris. Mine is done by looking at it going through a picture that was put out, and I guessed. So we've got it entering from Scorpio or Sagittarius into Scorpio, literally on the 23rd, which was that 0-degree Virgo moon 2 weeks ago when we did our call. It was entering the sign of Scorpio. The reason that is pertinent is because Scorpio represents lies, all the hidden dark sexuality. It's all of the call it the junk drawer that we've had to deal with individually and collectively. And as I've talked about in the other calls, we've got oscillating Lilith, which is the moon's apogee, which is the farthest part of the path of the moon away from the Earth. I'm suggesting and I've read many places, Lilith really represents divine feminine. Now, this 3-eye Atlas path is within 2 degrees of a retrograde station in one of the path trajectory shifts of oscillating Lilith. That happens to be on my Johnny asteroid and my Jonathan Murray asteroid and the Nikola Tesla asteroid, all within 3 degrees of each other. And it's all being activated between the divine feminine of oscillating Lilith and this path. Most astrologers have not talked about what they think this cosmic interstellar object has as like an energy and what it's doing. My feeling is because it is interstellar, it doesn't come from our solar system, but it did enter on the galactic center. It means that it is galactic information that's being retrograded through all these signs, which is affecting our consciousness. Now, when it comes across Scorpio, it's semi-sextiling the galactic center. That's a workable energy. It's not challenging, but it doesn't really fit with a coherence because it's a 30-degree sign, supposedly. And they usually say that those energies don't see each other. I don't know how much they work together or don't. The main thing is, though, that this is traveling at that particular point with a closeness to the oscillating Lilith path. So it is the divine feminine that's being aspected at that moon last 2 weeks ago. As it comes across its path, it goes across, again, those 3 asteroids with me, but my asteroid is sitting on top of the Juno asteroid. Juno is partnering, it's marriage, but it's any kind of partnership, really. That Juno is literally sitting on the 22-degree Scorpio point from May 12th. I told y'all for these last few months that moon point was going to be very important. Juno and my name is sitting on it with Vesta. And this path of this new interstellar object is right on top of all that. So to me, that's cosmic consciousness that's being downloaded through all these areas of Scorpio. But as it hits that full moon at 22 degrees Scorpio, it's also approaching the interpolated Lilith, which has, I forget the definitions of some of these different Lilith things, but usually as a general rule, they are lower expression of sexual energy, but we call it sex. It's creative energy. And we've just misused sex for so long that and I want to do this on big picture dynamics here. So all of these things are affecting all of us on a collective level to wake up from the false reality and bring us into an awakened reality. So it's hitting that, but it's also hitting the average black moon Lilith point, which a lot of astrologers use as the black moon Lilith, which I've said it's not the actual point of Lilith because she's an oscillation. But as it comes across all of that, it was approaching this eclipse. This first eclipse trine, this is the workable energy, there's a trine at 15 degrees Scorpio World Point. It's the midpoint between the cardinal signs. So that trine is sitting exact on Scorpio World Point. Within 2 degrees of that is the Narcissus Centaur. The Narcissus Centaur is exactly on the black moon Lilith average point and only 2 degrees away from interpolated Lilith. So it's almost like cosmic awareness is coming across and awakening anything that is narcissistic, anything that is lower form expression of Lilith. It has gone over Juno of partnering. It's also, all of this is happening at that 22 degree, we're within a couple of days of energy with all this. And this moon, we're working with this energy for 6 months. All eclipses are 6-month working energies. So you've got this cosmic consciousness coming across here, and it's already been in the galactic center, coming from the galactic center. It's going across all of these points of Scorpio backwards. So all these lies, deceits, lower expression, anything in Scorpionic world that's out there, this is individual and collectively, it is getting activated. It just came across my progressed and natal Neptunes, my natal Psyche. At 13 degrees is my Imum Coeli, which is the IC, which is the bottom of my chart, which is all of the emotional, home expression, all these kinds of things. It's also coming up on my natal Priapus, which is the divine feminine energy, the opposite of Lilith. Right next to that is the Linden asteroid, Judith Linden. So she's in attendance. Right next to that, my natal Karma asteroid in retrograde, as well as progressed Psyche. And then my natal Juno. The reason I bring up all these things from a personal standpoint is because obviously it's presenting this information to me in ways of explaining the way that this cosmic thing can change and affect who we are and how we perceive the world. I do think that, Judith as a soul is there. I think she's been part of my past life karma. We're still operating, even though she's not here in physicality. Her soul expression is still very active in operating all this. The other part to this that I kind of left out, at the galactic center where this thing came from, my last name, progressed asteroid, is sitting at the galactic center. I completely forgot that. The natal Einstein asteroid is sitting there. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And it's just past, right before the Capricorn World Point, which is where my first name is. So there's something to our names. I highly suggest, if you really are interested in astrology, go check, see where your names are. Family, friends, any major person, even somebody you're having a problem with, you can pull it up and say, why am I having a problem with this? Anyway, all this energy is coming backwards through Scorpio. Because we've got this eclipse, this is all about releasing. It's next to the trine of the full moon eclipse, though, in Pisces. So that is a positive energy working with this eclipse. So I have a feeling that whatever cosmic consciousness through this 3-eye Atlas comet, whatever it is, coming through Scorpio is right now, it's doing it right during the eclipse window. That's no mistake. So if something is way out of alignment, this is going to cosmically put whatever it is back into alignment. That may mean deep disintegration. Just because we have a trining energy and flowing energy, some people say, oh, it's all wonderful. It's wonderful if you're on the good end of receiving energy as far as what you put in the world, you're getting back and you're in good divine flow. If you're not in divine flow, this is almost like it's almost like God coming to kick your butt. That's what it feels like to me, because it's out of the cosmos, it's out of the solar system. And we've only had these things come through twice, and I've not gone through and tracked where the other pathways were before. I'm going to after I've done this and looked at it this week. I only looked at this actually I think 3 days ago. I put this on here and tracked it. Now what's going to be interesting too, though, as this comes through to the next eclipse 2 weeks from now, it's going to be at 12 degrees Scorpio, and that's going to be a sesqui square to the Virgo moon, and that's going to be that's a half square. So that's going to be challenging energies too. It doesn't have to be bad, but I think for anyone with placements around something there, this is going to be a cosmic wake-up call for those people. And again, at the midpoint of these eclipses, which is a week from now, it's crossing the Nessus the Narcissus Centaur. So anyone that's really deep in narcissistic, stuff that they're working through, I really think they're going to get cosmic wake-up calls. I don't know what it's going to look like. Again, I'm not a professional astrologer, but I think it's going to be challenging. So let me see. What else is going to talk? Oh, so it also in 2 weeks for Scorpio, when we have the 29-degree Virgo New Moon Solar Eclipse, that is going to be sitting at that 29th degree. The Juno asteroid will be within 2 degrees of that, but that sextiling energy. So that eclipse is going to be more workable for anything going on in Scorpio. It's also from that 0 degree from 2 weeks ago and closing out, this bookend of Virgo. Yeah, I meant Virgo. It's closing out that bookending part of Virgo in a sextile, which is a positive thing. So that will also be the new beginnings in 2 weeks. So whatever's falling out of your life this week, if you have anything, majorly being hit, or in somebody else's life, you'll know, then you have a real understanding for it. On that path, though, I want to keep talking about this 3-eye atlas because it's going to be with us not indefinitely. It's got a path, and I want to discuss the path because it really is going to color the rest of our year. And I haven't really seen astrologers talking about this much yet. And I think it's also new. They don't get it. But I've tracked it along the sky, so I'm seeing it. It is going to meet up with Mars at 6 Scorpio. And it's going to do that around October the 1st or 2nd, like in that time period. That's both my guess path as well as this woman's path where she put the ephemeris. So that's a pretty exact place. That's sitting on my natal Juno of partnering. So I don't know what that's going to be. It's going to cosmically like partner with Mars and action. I mean, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. But basically, this thing is going to start hitting all of the personal planets between October 1st and October 31st. It hits Mars first on October the 1st. Then it comes in contact with Mercury. Mercury will be sitting on the Shapley attractor, which is another one of those galactic points. Mercury is also with Haumea, as Pam Gregory talks about different ones. Haumea could birth all sorts of things. You've got this cosmic galactic thing on Mercury at Haumea, and it's not just so it's conjunct the Shapley attractor. It's also sitting on the oscillating Lilith pattern. So it's in the Lilith vortex, as I've always said. That's the divine feminine within this cosmos and solar system. But then you've got this cosmic thing on Mercury, on Haumea, on this path. That is extraordinary. I don't know what it means. Again, I'm not an astrologer to project value that deeply yet. But now as it does that, it's going to go past that. It's going to recontact the Lilith asteroid, or the Lilith path oscillation goes direct as it goes back into Libra, and it's going to come back direct really quick, and this path goes across it again at 29 degrees of Libra. Within 2 days, it's going to meet up with the sun on the sextile to the galactic center. I know I'm going heavy astrology on you guys today, and if you don't do astrology that much, this may feel way over your head, but I have to point these things out because they're very pertinent. And again, I told you things are going to move really fast by the end of this year. So this is the middle of October. Actually, before it meets up with the sun, it's going to cross the Clotho fate. Clotho is beginnings, and that's going to happen at the 0 degree Scorpio point, 29. I mean, it's right there going in and out of Scorpio. As it does that, it's going to hit the Tesla asteroid. So Tesla can represent everything from Tesla cars. It can represent could be Elon Musk stuff, but it represents Nikola Tesla energy as far as free energy. It should have been the way we were operating on the planet anyway. I'm wondering if when this 3-eye atlas accesses that with a sextile to the galactic center and the sun all at the same time, and then right after that, it's a tropos. A tropos is the fate of the endings. And that's all going to meet up on the new moon on October 21st. That's a lot of energy happening. I don't know what it's going to look like. But again, that's at the end of Libra. And not far away, you've also got the Arcturus star system. All of that's happening on my progressed Juno partnering asteroid, my Quorar, Ceres, Varda. All that's happening in the same areas. So, but it's a sextile to the galactic center, which means it's really good flowing energy from the center of our cosmos with this interstellar cosmic thing coming across it, meeting up with our sun, lighting it up with a new moon. So the moon and the sun are both in the same point at the end of Libra. Libra is about balancing, and it's at a mastery degree, 28, 29 degrees there. 27 degrees is the actual thing for the galactic center to be in sextile. That's a lot of energy coming up. So that's a huge shift, and that's going to happen on the 20th, 21st of October. Then this 3-eye atlas is going to come on down, and it's going to meet up with Venus. And it's going to do that around 20 degrees of Libra. At this point, too, this other astrologer woman's ephemeris of this object started going off a little bit. My straight line goes down, so it just means that my path is about, it starts about 2 days earlier than hers, but it gets to where I'm about a week ahead of where her path puts this. It doesn't matter necessarily. It just means about timing as far as what would happen with regards to anything. So the point is, by the 31st, well, the 29th, well, the 30th is when it comes in contact with Venus. So the whole month of October, this cosmic thing has come across all the personal planets. So that will work to wake us up on a personal level, because you get the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars. All of those things affect who we are as personal expression. And we're getting a cosmic wake-up call. I don't know what it looks like. Now, as it continues on its path, it'll go across the Riphanos Centaur, but it goes across Maki Maki. At the same time, my last name, Bray asteroid, goes across it. And this is around the 10th or 11th of November. Immediately after that, it goes across the Theros Centaur, the Ison Comet Centaur. And I've talked about the Ison Comet before, but I mean, it really is kind of, the Ison Comet was cosmic awareness. And the fact that my last name's traveling with it, and the Carla and Jung asteroids are right there, I mean, literally within 4 or 5 degrees of each other. And this cosmic thing are going to come across all of our asteroids in my chart. It does it on my progressed ascendant, who I came here to be in the world. And they come across the natal and the Jung, or the progressed Jung asteroids in my chart in Libra. So all that energy is affecting me in a big way as this cosmic thing affects me. So I've got the transiting asteroid Jung meeting up with the natal Jung as this cosmic thing comes across. I don't know what that's going to mean. I've got to talk to a real astrologer soon. Anyway, then it's going to, after it does all of that, it's going to come in the middle of November, 17th, 18th, the super galactic center. The super galactic center is even bigger than our galactic center. It's just another one of those cosmic points. It's at the Libra World Point, which is in opposition to the Aries World Point. That's a lot of energy. It's cosmic energy. So what's going to happen in the middle of November? I have no idea. Are we going to go through huge wake-up calls? I certainly hope so. But right after it goes through that, it hit the Libra World Point, which is an opposition to beginning of Aries. In November, and put this all in context, at the middle of November, when we look at Neptune and Saturn, they are no longer in Aries. They have both already, been back in Pisces for a bit during their last retrograde. This is the one last visit of Saturn, our structures, Neptune, the old dream, in Pisces. Saturn is going to go direct on the 27th of November, while this thing is coming across in, let's see, where are we at? At Libra. So it's going to be in opposition to transiting Neptune and Saturn that are retrograde. It is going to be squaring the galactic center. And Saturn and Neptune are going to be squaring the galactic center. But this cosmic consciousness is going to be in opposition while we are going through an individual and collective review and release of the old story. You can't make this stuff up. Now, what's even more interesting here, we've got the Gregory asteroid sitting on this thing, on the square to the galactic center. So Pam Gregory, as a soul expression, is going to be really awakened by whatever this thing is bringing up. And it's not just Pam. Anybody with the last name of Gregory as a frequency, I think is going to go through some awakening process of this. Within about 3 or 4 days later, it's going to come across the Lachesis fate, which is kind of like a length of fate. Now, in my own personal chart, my Uranus is at 24, 25 degrees of Virgo. So the square to the galactic center is sitting on my Uranus. I'm constantly squaring the galactic center, always with Uranus. The Gregory asteroid's there, but this cosmic comet is going to go across my Uranus, and this is at the end of November. It will then come across my Pluto on December the 4th. What's also there when this thing is on my Pluto is my first name. Well, one of the three. This one is the John Cox asteroid, literally direct on my Pallas Athena and Pluto. Pluto's transformation. Am I going to have some cosmic transformation? I don't know. I'm not going to project the value onto it. We're just going to have to wait and see. Right after it goes across that, it comes across the Judith asteroid, which is sitting literally exactly on the south node. So this thing is coming across the south node and Judith at the same time on my natal Pallas Athena and on my heavenly portal asteroid. I don't know what that's going to mean. But that's around the 11th of December. As it continually goes backwards, this was something interesting. I had put in, because when I was trying to figure the path of this, I was guessing, and it was coming across what I thought was going to be Regulus, the star Regulus, another royal star at the beginning of Virgo, and I put it in. This woman's ephemeris, which shows the path according to her astrological stuff, merges her path right back on exactly on mine on the date on Regulus. Can't make that stuff up. So it's at 0 Virgo, which is where our moon opened for this eclipse series. And this cosmic thing is going to be sitting on that degree at the 27th, right after Christmas in December. Again, you can't make this stuff up. But then, right after that happens, it's going to back into Leo. When it does, it's going to be going over my progressed Jupiter, my progressed Clotho of Fate, my progressed Tesla, Waldemuth Lilith, and my natal Jupiter, which are all trining the galactic center. Trining is easy, free flow energy. I mean, it literally, you can't have any better energy of that. So this interstellar cosmic object is coming across a trine to the galactic center at the end of Leo. My middle name asteroid is sitting on it. But I mean, there's no other planetary things that are there, but it's going to be trining in the galactic center. So there's going to be this communication going back and forth between this object from outer space and the galactic center. It will then come across the Leo World Point, which will be my Astro Wizard, my name, and the Tesla asteroids. This is like around January the 10th. As it continually goes through Leo, though, I was trying to guess and figure out where it was going to go next. And it came around the Pollux and the Procyon stars, which are in the last 25 degrees of Cancer. And it's going to basically be quincunxing the galactic center, which is, it's a challenging energy, but it's still workable energy. I mean, it may bring some challenges. Again, no astrologer has ever written on this because this thing just appeared. But it's going to be going across my first name asteroid and the Judith asteroid, which are sitting next to each other at 2728 Cancer. I don't know what that's going to mean. But when it does get to that point, the other thing I noticed was that it verges almost like it's coming into a retrograde station to go direct. And I thought, well, what is that about? And so it's moving through Cancer very fast, and it's approaching Jupiter. As it approaches Jupiter, it's doing so, guess when? During the eclipses next spring. Why is that pertinent? Right before the eclipses, that is when we go back into Aries, Saturn re-enters Aries on the 13th of February, and Neptune will just re-enter Aries on January the 26th. So the new dream, the final dream, I've told you all this for months. Neptune will come back in, creating the new dream in Aries at 0 Aries. Saturn is going to come back in finally to give it structure on the 13th, 4 days before the eclipse. The first eclipse it's technically going to be winter, but it's going to be on February the 17th. And the Saturn and Neptune are sitting on top of each other. They make an exact conjunction at 044 Aries 3 days after the first eclipse next spring. That is not a coincidence. The eclipses next, everybody says they're basically 6 months, and they're tied to the next set of eclipses. So whatever we're doing now in this eclipse series right now, this window, pay attention, because you're going to give solid structure to your new dream during the eclipses next February. Now, as that happens, over there, this cosmic three-eye atlas thing entering the eclipse window is doing it at 18, 19 degrees of Cancer. Cancer's house and home, all these kinds of things. It approaches by the second eclipse on March 3rd, is going to be at the Sirius star system. That's not an accident. And that's at 1525 of Cancer. That particular placement is exactly sextile the full moon lunar eclipse, which is at 12 Virgo on March the 3rd. So that's a workable energy, again, with that particular eclipse. Hit the wrong thing. The picture that I used, that the individual had created for this path, Didn't give any specifics. It just shows where it was traveling, and I guessed all this. The other thing it shows, though, is that energy just stops on March the 12th next year. So it appears to leave our solar system at the Sirius star on the 12th. And it's going to do it like as Jupiter goes direct on the 11th of March. And it does that at the Sirius star system. What else is the Sirius star system in my chart but the natal Judith asteroid? And it's also my progressed midheaven, what I'm doing in the outer world. So I don't know what this is going to look like for me. And what's next to that is also the progressed Pamela asteroid, the progressed Nikola, like Nikola Tesla asteroid, the Magdalena asteroid. I don't know. It's going to be one of those things where we're just going to have to wait and see. But and thank you for taking the patience if you've endured all this on this call. But it really kind of goes to paint a picture of what this interstellar cosmic, whatever it is, comet, whatever they come up with the science in the next few months as they observe it and pay attention to it. But it's going to have a path, but it comes in the solar system, it leaves the solar system. So it's come in not July 7th, but when they go back through that's what I was saying earlier. They went back to May the 6th of this year from when it came into the universe, or our solar system, because they went back through NASA energy video compilations of things where they tracked the sky. They backed in to see when the first light energy signature came forward. And that's when they actually realized that this thing appeared in the universe at the galactic center. So I think all of this is pertinent, I think, from a standpoint of how it's affecting us. I think that this thing is like going to perform cosmic awareness. I think it's going to awaken. That's its purpose. I think it's come into the solar system to work with the galactic center. It starts there, come across backwards through the sky, and I'm not sure why it's going backwards through the sky, but that's what it does. So we'll wait and see what real astrologers have to say once they go through and look at the path and accelerations and activations. But I do think that we're getting cosmically awakened between now and the next set of eclipses. But the fact, again, that this thing is going through the whole sign of Scorpio from that Virgo moon 2 weeks ago, that's when it entered Scorpio. And it's going to be going across that Scorpio point, and it's going to be, and it's going through Scorpio in the middle of this eclipse window. That's a big deal. I think it's cosmically waking up all of the dark, anything that's been dank, dark, hidden energy. I think it all gets woken up during this eclipse series. And again, eclipses last 6 months of energy. So between now and February the 17th and March 3rd next, 2026, all of this stuff is going to shift whatever's in our reality individually and collectively to allow us to create the new dreams unencumbered with all of our old crap. I don't know what that is going to look like. I know we're going through, again, and I've said this, my gosh, for years, and it's true. It's always true. We're always going through death and rebirth all the time. Your cells in the body, death and rebirth. The planet, death and rebirth. Animals, death and rebirth. Everything is always through death and rebirth. When you start to slow down and you go into the immediacy, you can attend the death and rebirth. You can attend the dying cells. You can attend your dying consciousness. You can attend your dying stories. Let those stories die. They're useless. They've served you. You don't need them anymore. Let your family stories die. You don't need them anymore. Not where we're going and what we're going to be doing. We're creating something so new, and it has to come from pristine awareness. And the fact that we're being supported by this cosmic whatever, I don't think it's a maleficent thing. I think it's a beneficial thing. I think it's going to be, and again, whatever's happening now with these eclipses, it's getting rid of the caca, so that when we get to October, it's going to go over Mars, Mercury, Clotho of Fate, Tesla asteroid, Atropos, the Sun, and then Venus in the whole course of a month. I think that's when we get really activated on a personal level, individually and collectively. So, I had no idea where this call was going to go today, but there we are. We went down a cosmic rabbit hole, I guess. I haven't even gone back to go check the room and see. Okay, so we're at 15 people. Anyway, so I think we may have one or two join in. I don't know how that looks to each of you. Again, if you've stayed on, thank you. I think we may have lost one or two. I went heavy on astrology this time, and I know I always talk about astrology because it's the basis of what we're doing. Where'd it go? Okay, it's back. That says 14. Anyway, but so imagine that that's happening individually and collectively. And also imagine that it is affecting, I'm talking about every soul. I'm talking about politicians around the world. I'm talking about governments. I'm talking about cities. Everything has a birth chart. Whenever it was conceived, whenever it was started, there's all these energies that are affecting. And so all of these things are going to affect everything in our world and cosmos in some way. The question is how are you consciously affecting and working with all the energy in creating whatever it is you want to create? It's a lot. I'm sure you're all exhausted from that whole journey. Y'all all get 5 stars for sticking through it. And whether or not you understood it all, there's something about light language. There's something about just attending and hearing it all. Your cells are going through an awakening with this process. The way you perceive reality is shifting. Whether you're conscious about the way you're perceiving it being shifted or not, I assure you, you are shifting. And it's taking you into a completely different way of like waking up tomorrow. I mean, whatever we just discussed could literally be shifting you out of something that kept you stuck. Depending on where your soul is and your heart and whatever else, it's like, and of course, as we go into our meditative portion of this, all we're going to do is really amplify all of this for deep healing internally. And I can't wait to make the video on this. I'm really close. I've almost got. Again, I did all of 2026. I think I may have to put some 2027 in there, but I may not do it before I actually do the video. I'm going to see. But 2027 is really when we start to see, I think, the new structure of what's happened. When I got to the end of 2026 with some of the planetary stuff, I was like, oh, but I need to know what's next. And again, I know this takes time, but I think time is going to just literally move so fast. We're going to blink, and 2027 is going to be here. We're going to be like, how the heck did that happen? That's what it's going to feel like. So, yeah. Okay, well, on that note, why don't we, well, it didn't take too long. It's only 9:38. I'm surprised. It felt like I was going for 2 hours. I had a drink. Okay. So if you're not in your spaces to get still and go into a deep healing place, please find your easy chair or your bed. Imagine most all of you are plopped out, laid out in the bed. I think that's the easiest place to be when we do these calls. I think most of you have talked about that you just lay out in the bed. Well, actually, I think I put most of y'all to sleep, and then some of you go in really deep alpha and theta states, beta. I forget the frequencies of those and which one comes first, but it's a lot. So get all my light adjusted. Okay, that's good. So just get really, really still and quiet and just let everything fall away. Okay. And whatever's just flowing in your mind, just let it be and let it just float away. Just let it go. Whatever thoughts are coming in. Your brain really may be on overdrive after all of that talking and explanation, but sorry about that. But it really is very indicative of the huge shifts and changes that we're coming into. And it's happening on a cosmic level. That's what's really cool. Okay, so again, I'll probably do like last week. I'm not going to do a big talk into this. We're just going to go dive in. And I'm just going to get really still with you and go into these deep releasing and healing codes. And we're doing it for each other. That's the awesome part. You are each contributing equally. Whether you know it or not, you are. Okay. So let's go in, and we're going to go in on the atomic, subatomic levels and layers. We're going in multidimensionally. Every and any lifetime you've ever had, it's all being addressed. It's all being cleared. So just deep dive in.